Welcome back. I'm Jonathan Reynolds, your host of the Titus Talent Talks podcast. I'm sitting here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Titus's headquarters and a training center for us. But I'm sitting here, this mini series with our own top leaders from our senior leadership team at Titus. These are people of character, people who are value driven, people who help me, inspire me, challenge me, correct me, and keep me in line. And I so appreciate this group of stellar people. At Titus, we exist to equip companies to make the best attraction, hiring, engagement, and development decisions. And we're sitting here with some of our top senior leaders at Titus who will do just that for you. Well, I am sitting here with my friend, Raina Fryer, who is the head of people and learning at Titus. I don't know why I'm telling you that. You already know it.
Do you know
that you are the head of people and learning?
I do know that I'm the head of people and learning. Most of the times people just say HR, but I think you know how I feel about saying that, because I think HR nowadays especially is so much more than transactional HR of the past. And we're here about learning, development, all the things.
And you're really good at it too.
Well, thank you.
Honestly, I think one of the things I'm just so thankful for in our journey is the investment in the development of our people. And I am a self-proclaimed really bad manager. I'm just not really good at the consistency and following through on all those little details. Mm-hmm. And I like the big picture. And you create an amazing roadmap for developing our people, so everyone knows on our team where they're journeying, what's next, how we're going to get there, even part of our 3-year journey of where we want to be. How do you get everybody to see that for themselves? Talk about that.
Oh my goodness. I had to take a deep breath before I respond to that, because I think that's actually been one of the top 5 things that are on my list of top 5 responsibilities. And I think that developing the roadmap is difficult because we're trying to think sometimes 6 months out, and then a year out, and now we're talking 3 years out. And we want to make sure that we're creating a journey and a roadmap that is so incredible and so inspiring for our people. But sometimes I don't even think we know what that is yet. So we're trying to develop that, but we still also have to be really adaptable and really flexible, because things are changing, just because the market changes and people change and our business model might change. So it's a lot of work.
It is. What are some of the biggest frictions that you get in that area? Like, is it individuals coming and going, what's my path? I don't like my path. I mean, like, is it senior leaders who are around you on your leadership team going, what's next? I mean, you certainly get to a point where you're like, what is next? I can't see where I can go anymore.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's harder. I think it's the hardest for individual contributors who are still really trying to find their way or find out who they really are, because not all of us know who we want to be when we grow up. I always say I'm still trying to figure that out a little bit. What path do I really want to go down? So I think it's really helping people understand that because we are a company who's very entrepreneurial, that the job that you want tomorrow might not exist today. And it's okay for you to start putting out feelers and doing activities that are things that show that you can do that job in the future. And there might be a place for it in the future of Titus as well. So I think that's the hard part, is fitting in all of the skill sets of the people we have and making sure they feel inspired.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things I think you've done particularly well is kind of balance that thing of, we say at Titus, people come first, or we're a people-first organization. The lens in which we look through is what's best for our people, then what's best for our partners, which we call our customers, and then what's best for profits. But they're all tied together. You can't have one without the other. Like, if any of them fail, like, they're all going to fail. But how do you kind of do this sort of people-first lens when it comes to, like, career growth and development? Like, well, I want to do this now. And, how do you sort of balance that pretty well.
I think with the people-first mentality, a lot of it is balancing where the person wants to go to by saying sometimes we can't give you that growth and development, but helping them find what they can out there on the web, going to their own training, finding a coach who might be outside of the business. Like, I think the hardest part is people really looking outside of our walls for growth and development, not just inside, and then feeling okay to do that. Like, giving people freedom to go grow and create depth and breadth of knowledge, not just because of the things we're giving them. I do think we do a good job of offering training and education, but there's only so much we can offer.
Like what? Give an example of outside kind of the 4 walls, or what were you saying?
Yeah,
there?
I mean, I've been internally coaching the majority of our senior leaders since I started with Titus. And I myself had an external coach, and I felt like my external coach, somebody that I just found through networking event, was where I saw the most growth in my career. Really having somebody who didn't know the internal workings of the business, didn't necessarily have any play in the politics, and I know that can sound like a dirty word, but politics exists in every organization.
Totally,
It's interpersonal savvy, org savvy, whatever you want to call it. But really having that person outside of the business who's only worried about where I want to get better, where I want to grow.
Right. Okay, so you have a coach still?
I do.
Okay. And do you, at Titus, do you encourage people to go outside the organization to find things that are going to invest in them? And what would be an example of that?
If they need to. So I'm hoping we offer enough internally, right?
Sure.
A great manager, great coach internally, a lot of education or training opportunities. But if people need to go outside the organization, like we use Franklin Covey for a lot of our learning. So even though it's internal, that might be another opportunity for somebody to go attend a training that maybe we don't have internally. But there are a million free trainings out there right now.
Totally.
Go to the web. Go to the World Wide Web.
The www.
Yeah, go there.
That's cool. So, as far as career path goes, because I'm thinking a lot of our team, which I mean, I dearly just really, really appreciate them that they've chosen to invest their skills and talents and treasures right here in what we're building. Because they're entrepreneurial and they're quite hard charging and fast paced, and they want to know what's next all the time. What am I working towards? What happens if it's there? Like, what happens if somebody's like, I feel like you're not letting me run.
A little stuck, yeah.
Because like I don't want to lose people. I mean, everything feels personal to me. I think probably a lot of entrepreneurs who are building stuff, it feels just deeply personal, and I don't want people to leave if I have an opportunity to grow them and develop them. But what would be like, how do you help coach somebody around that kind of?
Yeah, you and I have talked a lot about this. I think we have in our mind this age-old corporate ladder. Yeah. People want to climb up this ladder. And we've talked more about this idea of scaffolding, that there's a lot of different ways that you can grow without taking a new title. For some people, title is really important, but I would hope that more important to an individual are skill development so that they can basically move into any seat they would want in the future, knowing that we don't have it today, maybe we don't have it tomorrow. We're just really trying to get people to understand that you can create depth and breadth without getting a title promotion, but they're still growing and developing. So sometimes it's just saying, be patient. We don't always have a seat right now. It doesn't mean we won't have one in the future.
And so if somebody says, hey, I want this seat that doesn't even exist yet. I know that these are real things.
Yes.
We have people in our company who are like, I want to be doing this. And we're like, we don't do that.
We don't do that.
Yet. I think we could. Like, I'll give an example. We do a lot of internal events at Titus, internal events for our team. And then we also do external ones. We have talent retreats come in. Yes. We got these like Titus experiences where we do like virtual events, and then we do in-person events. We do international travel events. Yes. There is obviously, being in the role I sit in, I'm like constantly dreaming about what the next few years are going to look like.
Yes.
And someone's like, I would love the full-time job of an event planner. And I'm like, oh, we don't have that. Yeah. And like, how do you temper this? Anyway, I think probably a lot of people who listen to this, they're dealing with hard-charging people around on their teams who want so much more, and they're like, I can't pay you a salary to do that
You
yet.
also want the hard-charging people, so you don't want to take that charge out of the individual because they're doing such great work in the seat that they might be in today. They're mastering the seat. They're the people, the results-driven people we want to perform in our organization for us.
See, I think that's that balance of the different seasons we're in. Sometimes the seasons are like in abundance and people are like, oh, I feel really free. And then there are other times where it's like nail biting. Like I'm thinking of just through the pandemic, everyone was like, just be thankful you have a job. I mean, for years, we've not been able to say that to employees because they're in the driver's seat.
Correct.
And then suddenly it was like, let's just all be thankful we have a job, But now we're in this season again. I mean, I remember the beginning of this year, 23, things were slowing down for a lot of companies. There were a lot of tech layoffs and things like that. And people
Still
were
are.
hanging on
It's
for dear life.
nerve-wracking. It's anxiety-producing to see that out there.
And then like, what's the future going to be? What's the future going to hold? How do you deal with this whole thing we hear so much around burnout? Talk about that.
Oh, yes, burnout. So I think right now is interesting. About 8 weeks ago, I was at Reagan's Culture and Communication Conference in Chicago, and it's something we spoke about. And Reagan said that it was 2023, word of the year, burnout. And I made a joke, not to be insensitive, but said, is that really only the word of 2023? Because I think burnout has always existed. It's something that in my role that I'm always thinking about. And it's really, burnout to me is really the product of a couple of different things. It's not just about work. It's usually the combination of work and life and what those pressures are doing to an individual that can cause them to just feel overwhelmed. I mean, burnout is basically this state of pervasive, overwhelming anxiety and fatigue.
Yeah.
And so one thing we really want to do as an organization, something we can control, is ensuring that we don't put too much on the plate of our individuals. Yes, we want them to be hard charging. Yes, we want them to be entrepreneurial, but there comes a point in time where our expectation is too great. And because people are anxious, especially now in this economy that we're in, they're pushing themselves harder than ever before because they do want to have a place in case something were to go sideways, in case the word layoff is out there. So people are working harder than ever to create their brand and to make sure that I think companies know that they want to be there.
And I just think it's so many different factors that go into burnout, which, like, I think probably as business owners and business leaders, you can feel this like, well, it's not my fault. Like, we can get defensive when somebody's burned out. Like, I didn't overwork you. And I think there are probably times where we actually did. When we were keep going, keep pushing. But then there's so many factors outside of from just life. I mean, like bills, medical challenges, medical challenges with family members. You got kids, you got this, you got aging parents going on. You got election year coming up next year. I mean, that's stressful for a lot of people. I'm like, I hate it because I'm like, it emphasizes division. But that's also really exhausting because it's conflict as well, isn't it? So suddenly you add conflict into your life. That's a recipe for major burnout.
Well, we say we are looking at the whole person, and the whole person comes to work.
Yeah.
The thing is, as an employer, we also are running a business. So you run this fine line of saying, like, I understand all of these things are coming with you, and we see these like temporary lapses of results or lower performance. That's one thing. But if that becomes pervasive, then the business is in a situation where, we know our people personally, and we're trying to balance this personal thing is going on, but this business thing needs to get done. And if that individual can't do it, somebody else does. So then work gets pushed to other people. And then that becomes a cycle within an organization. And now other people are becoming burnt out. So we're always in this, I don't know, I don't even call it work-life balance anymore. It's like this flex of things that we need to do. And we need to help people find that flex. So maybe they have a really long work week because a project is due. Then we want to afford some relaxing or maybe a little less of a work, I don't know, schedule the week after because they need to flex back a little bit. And that's, I think, where we try to be really cognizant with our employees is understanding that sometimes they need to take that step away and they need to flex back on hours a little bit because they just had a really hard week back here.
Right. One of the things that's just a kind of a personal journey for me is I can feel like this deep kind of, you've been like crushing it. You're working really hard here. We've all been just going really fast and hard on this one. And like, hey, let's just invest in your personal world outside, And suddenly you kind of like, hey, I want to care for your kind of TLC. Go and take care of, here's a whatever, like, here's a gift card to go and take some time off and go and whatever it is and then suddenly people are like, oh, that's you're going into my personal life. I don't want to keep this separate. I'm like, well, I realized that your personal life was sacrificing because of the work life. So I'm trying to balance and bridge to support that part. Like there is, this is quite a tricky landscape of landmines.
I don't think you're ever going to get it right 100%. That's the thing. Like, I think we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace to understand that we're going to try as an employer. We want our employees to try, but we can't make everybody happy. And that's the hard part. You want to, but we can't make everybody happy. So what might work for one person and they might be really invested in us understanding their personal life and their personal struggles, that's not going to be for the other person over here. So we have to ask those questions. I mean, I'd want to know in my one-on-ones if somebody would prefer to talk about personal things. If that's important to them, I want to know about their life at home.
So as a leader, and you do a lot of coaching, how do you like sort of broach that topic? Do you like, hey, would you like to tell me about your personal life over the weekend?
When I coach, I have very specific thing that I always say. When you're coaching a person, their life floods into professional life. So their personal world is going to mix with the professional things that are going on. And so typically, I'm going to manage up information that's happening in a coaching session.
Yeah.
So I will never share personal information up. I'm going to share the professional information up. I want people to have that freedom if that's important to them and work is impacting personal life for them to bring it into the conversation.
Yeah.
So I encourage it. I just don't think you can have one without the other. If I don't really know the person I'm coaching, how can I also then coach them professionally? You need to know a little bit of the story. I don't need to know all of it, but
When
I
you
need to know
say
some of it.
Sharing up, do you mean like taking their personal story and telling somebody else?
Yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
in a coaching session, I might share professional information that their manager might need to know.
Okay.
But I'm not taking personal information and that feeding that forward because that's for them to do.
Oh, okay,
so
I
that part
getcha.
of the equation.
And do you
Personal.
practice vulnerability, personal vulnerability yourself, or is that, I mean, you're kind of a private person?
It depends. I think if the person wants to get personal and they feel like that's going to build a relationship, I'm comfortable sharing aspects of my personal life. But I think in a coaching session, it's less therapy, it's less mentoring, where you might say, well, I've done that before. It's more being curious. So I don't find a lot of space in a coaching session to talk about my personal stuff because it's really about what that person is seeking, where they're trying to grow. So we don't spend a lot of time on me. I have my own therapist for that.
Okay, so backing up a little bit, because you've been with Titus for
almost 3 years.
3 years. I was going to say 3, so I'm glad I'm kind of accurate. And it's awkward when I say, oh, you've been here 2 years now. No, 5.
Feels like 10, it's good.
So how, coming into an organization like this, I mean, I won't put words in your mouth, but how would you have described it? And has it met your expectations?
Yeah. It has met my expectations. I mean, I've come from a lot of different kinds of professional settings. So I've worked with professionals in training and development. I've worked in manufacturing with more line staff. I've worked in a law firm in collections, and every environment is very different and there's very different expectations. What I hoped to find when I came to Titus is the balance of the people and the profession, that we're really celebrating both sides of the equation.
Yeah.
And I think it's exceeded my expectations.
Well, that's good. I mean, you're the one who's leading the charge on it. So.
Well, thank goodness. I must be doing something right.
You did a good job. You're doing a really good job. When you look forward to... And I don't want to be like focused on specifically Titus, but when you look forward at the next few years, what are some things that you're thinking, I'm really excited of the investment that we're going to make that would be useful for other people to hear as well?
I am really excited about the investment we're currently making in the education space for our people.
Yeah.
But beyond that, as our teams are growing, we call them regions or a business unit, that there are people in those teams that want more opportunities to train and develop others. And we're talking more about how to embed things that typically fall in a corporate structure, going more into the team so they can run a little bit more independently. So still housed and resources given by corporate structure, but really allowing the teams to feel like they're truly running their own business operation. I feel like that will provide more opportunities for individuals, not feeling like, oh, if I want to do that, I have to come into learning and development or HR. They can do that. They can grow into that space. So I'm really excited about that.
Do you think that is unique to Titus, or do you think there's a lot of other organizations would benefit from that, like having more?
Yeah,
I mean,
I
everyone
don't know
seems to
that
be hungry to be training, mentored, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know that it's unique to Titus necessarily. The idea of having more regions or business units run like their own company. Usually you'll see an HR business partner helping run a stream of the business, but that doesn't always include learning and development. So I do feel like we can get, I don't know, more specialized or more unique in that as we grow it, as long as we see the interest there from our people. Yeah,
I would imagine that's going to be more. I mean, we've seen that a lot of our senior leaders over the last few years say, "Hey, I want to grow more in managing a P&L," and they're hungering for that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I think is we're in the space of majority of what we do is recruitment and headhunting.
Correct.
And often it's kind of like, we need someone with P&L management. And so people go, oh,
I've never done that before. Exactly.
I should have that because that came up in this thing. So managing a P&L is obviously something as a career development for people. Are there other things that you're seeing people have been asking for that would be characteristic of a generation that's coming through the workforce?
I mean, I think because of the world that we are in Titus, so the recruiting space, the headhunting space, we have a lot of very persuasive people. And again, the hard driving, very performance driven individuals. And we know that there is an element of business development in everything we do. So I would say what our people are asking for is more support around things like influence or persuasion or negotiating skills, which is really all byproducts of interpersonal savvy. So how do we help people feel more comfortable making the ask in a sense?
I like that. I think that's going to be the one of them. And, you know, I've been sort of hot on this whole topic of how AI is transforming everything, or it will anyway. Anything that can be automated will be automated. And we need to be absolute masters of the people equation, of not negotiation specifically, but just relational building. Like, how do you, you know, when you walk into a room, how do you actually stand out as being the, you know, the I don't know, most experienced relationship builder in the space, because technology is going to have a lot of data points that that's built over your electronic footprint, and like we need to be far superior to that in the heart connection and the even maybe with emotions, you know.
Well, it's hard nowadays too, because you miss so much in communication. Like, we get to be here together today, right? So we get to look at each other's body language and we're kind of in the moment. There's so much we're missing nowadays when we are not in person. So it is how to teach people relational things, how to build people's emotional intelligence when we're missing half the equation right now. It's really hard.
I know. Now we're a decade in, decade of being 100% mobile. We say mobile, not remote.
Right.
Just because remote sounds like an isolation. Like
we're connected.
Yeah, mobily connected. Yes. But how do we connect? Not just on a screen. How do we connect on this level?
That's right.
So people feel, I mean, talk about emotional intelligence, but also safety. Like we talk about psychological safety, but even, psychological, emotional safety. Like, do I feel that you are caring about my journey, my needs above your own? And I think that is a tough thing to do in an environment where you're remote.
Well, we're in an employee size. Even if we were in person, people typically say between 150 and 200 people, you start to lose connection because the layers get too deep or the company gets too big, and we're right on that brink. So not only are we not in person, we're at a company size where it becomes harder and harder for people to feel connected. I mean, you and I have been talking about this recently, having more opportunities for people to get to know you or other members of the executive or senior leadership team through a coffee connection, just because you want a name connected to the face, and that gets harder as the company gets bigger.
That is now here for people listening in. This is not just for remote. Like, you've got to be super intentional about anything. I'm not remote at home. My wife is in person, present. And if I don't take the time to invest in a date night or invest in coffee conversations or invest in wine conversations or invest in eating conversations, not entertainment, not a screen in front of us, not disconnecting from the world, but actually being intentional. If we don't invest in it, it's going to cause a separation.
For sure.
Like, the heart won't be connected, and easily we can be distracted by other things and feeling like I've lost the connection.
I mean, I think a lot of people were very excited after the pandemic to have the opportunity to work from home. And now people are saying, I do love working from home, but how else can I then get reconnected? Because this human connection is just not the same through the Zoom environment. So people are looking for it. People are seeking it. And we do need to be intentional about it.
I have a lot of business owners who say, oh, wow, you must save so much money that you don't have everybody in an office. And I'm like, no, we're investing in a heck of a lot of connection points. It doesn't save us any money. We're getting people on planes and flying to be together, bringing the entire company together once a year.
Might be more expensive in the long run if you really think about it,
Well, I think it probably is more. We invest more because we're a people organization, and so we gotta be on the cutting edge or the front line of doing this thing really well. And so I think having you in the role as sort of head of people and learning and development is so critical that we make that investment. So I know that, you know, you sit around 100 employees, like, you got to now put somebody in a role that's their primary role of developing people and seeing them grow and being engaged.
Well, I'm glad I get to be that person because I love it.
Well, if somebody wanted to get you on the phone and ask you questions, are they able to do that, or you don't
Yeah.
even do that?
You can get me on the phone. Should I just give my phone number out here on
No.
the spot? Okay, just making sure we're
Find
not
you on
going that way.
LinkedIn? Find you
Yeah,
where?
find me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to have a conversation. I mean, our goal is to really help businesses out there find the success that we have and some of the things that I think we do really well. So I'm always here for you, but I'm on LinkedIn.
I know,
Find me
you're on LinkedIn. And then also on our website, there's a whole thing which your team had developed, like a learning thing.
Yeah, we have a
Talk
learning
about that.
library.
Learning
We have a
library.
learning library, and we have a lot of our partners now really interested in having customized content for their needs. So although we have some off-the-shelf training, I think it's really nice to invest in customization to make sure that people are getting what they need for their organization. But we have a catalog now, and that's a new stream of our business. So really excited
Roughly
about
how many
that.
classes, workshops, trainings do you have?
Probably have about 8.
Okay. All right. Cool.
8 workshops that we're really invested in right now. And the most popular is feedback as a gift. We also have lead by coaching, authentic leadership. So a lot of what we're trying to do is help mid-level managers who have never sat in that seat before find success. And so our courses are all about helping them grow and be better.
Brilliant. Well, it certainly helped us, and I thank you for doing all you do and leading
you.
so well and being a great friend to our senior leadership team. And so hope everyone enjoyed that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining. Share it, like it. Hit up Raina Fryer on LinkedIn.